Welcome back again to another episode of the Cordial Podcast with me, of course, your host Kang'ong'oi, and I'm really happy to be back again. Still trying to figure out how exactly am I going to fit in these recordings. After like a long hiatus. But anyway, on this episode, I'm going to jump right into the matter. Into the matter of discussion, because I'm not going to talk about anything serious, but I'm just going to give you guys an experience of what I had in Namanga. So I had I had a but a long day on Saturday, because we had planned to go to Namanga with one of my favorite cohort of people, Tabasamu Concepts, and it was a long time planned trip, hang out to go to Namanga. And I thought to myself, man, I need the money. I need the money to go to this trip, because, hey, jamani, opportunity ya kutoka Kenya kwa Kasongo, mbona ukose. So yes, we did exactly that. He had provided an opportunity for us to pay mdogo kwa wale wakulima wadogo, na lakini kuna wenye walilipa direct, hao ni watu wajaguzana na Kasongo kabisa. But anyway, that was that, and yeah, we got to go to Namanga on Saturday. It was a really, really good experience. I can't lie. I wish I could go back to that specific day. How I was anxious about traveling, how I woke up early, I arrived early at the meter point in Nairobi. As always, sisi timekeepers, kidogo time haiwezi tusumbua. But anyway, yeah, so that I'm going to just give you a bit of a snip with my experience in Namanga, because let me tell you, Namanga is hot. Mimi nilikuwa nimetoka Limuru na jacket mbili bwana. Hata even before we left Nairobi, I wanted to remove my shirt, because I was like, hii joto imetoka wapi? But we are glad actually, because there was a bit of a scare with the rains that had come in earlier in that week, and I was like, si afadhali kusinyeshe manze. It can be cloudy, but please don't rain. Please, of all days, don't rain on Saturday. And to my shock, it became extra hot. Even everyone was complaining, bwana, ukijaribu ati kufunga window unaulizwa, wewe kwani usikii joto? Because bwana, we are burning inside. So yeah, so we were to leave Nairobi at around 7:30, but when you're dealing with people who are more than 40, there is bound to be some people who don't keep time, as always. Kenyans, and that excuse of we use African time, which is actually funny. Me, I don't really respect such people. Anyone who mentions to me that you do African time, my friend, utakaa nje tafadhali. But anyway, yeah, so that was the case. We had late covers, and then we had to delay a bit living in Nairobi. I had my seatmate, planned earlier, because I wanted to bwana, unajipanga mapema usiende kukaa mahali ovyo. But anyway, even with me being the first person to arrive at the meetup point, I didn't get to think of just going to book a good seat. And anyway, that's another story later on I will give. But yeah, so that was it. We left Nairobi at around 8:30 there. The bus was full. We only had to pick up one person in Mombasa Road. So yeah, we had music on, a bit of hiccups kidogo, because the bus sound system was not as good. It was good, but it was having some hiccups. But anyway, yeah, so we started off, going to our first stopover, which was in what do you call it, Kitengela. There's a quick match in Kitengela. So we on the road, we started singing, all these things just for the good vibes, and just some songs just to uplift ourselves before that journey becomes hectic, or tiresome. Let's use the energy. And as for me, for me, I'm always full of energy. I don't know where I get it from, but I'm always full of energy. I never want to sit down when it comes to such trips. I always feel like I am hyper all through. Fanya makosa unipatie soda ama kitu yote iko na sukari. Hey, my friends, it will be bad. But anyway, that was basically me the whole day. Some people were even asking me, my friend, do you ever shut up, or do you does your energy ever go down? Do you have a social battery that runs out? And I had to tell this one person that I don't really like associating myself with having a social battery, but when I need my rest, I usually take it. But also when it comes to such days where you just get to go out and have fun, I always want to maximize the whole feeling fully without even caring of whoever is looking at me or whoever thinks I'm acting weirdly. That's me. I am naturally a noisemaker. That's why I started a podcast, because I can't talk to myself on my bed every single day. I have to share my thoughts with anyone who's willing to listen. So yeah, so we got to Kitengela, to Quickmart, got some few snacks here and there, and also we had to buy some water. Now this is where now my day started going haywire, because I was like, hey, Devani, what is happening? Because I was tasked with getting the water bottles water basically for everyone who was traveling. And so yeah, I picked up the water at the supermarket, and then when I'm getting to the counter where I'm supposed to pay, Jamani, can you imagine the button where you're supposed to find M-Pesa on my phone went blank. Like I couldn't see it, I couldn't find, and I'm like, what? Then I decided, I'll not use the normal way of getting to M-Pesa. Let me use my M-Pesa app. I go to M-Pesa app, it says the service is currently not available. I'm like, hey, neibu gani hizi natafutiwa asubuhi mapema hizi? And it was around 10 a.m. there. So I'm like, hey, jamani. So nilitoa kijasho chembamba hapo, nilikuwa nashindwa, hey, jamani. Nitafanya nini? And I'm the one who's supposed to like pay for this water, and I was like, wait, but anyway, I decided to just restart my phone, and it worked, and I paid for it, and I was like, wait, hey, jamani, let it not be this for the rest of the day. So yeah, so after that we got into the bus, and now we got into the theme, with the theme of the whole hangout, and it was basically on listening to bongo music, and not the recent bongo music, but old school bongo music, because here at Tabasamu we have people who love the old songs, and Kavalaji had decided, let this hangout be themed with old school Kenyan music and bongo. So we decided to start with bongo, and we had none other than Patrick Pato Mapesa, who had created a whole playlist of the songs that we're supposed to sing. And you could see it in his eyes, bro. He was just waiting for him to be given the chance to actually now control the music, because he was like, bro, I created that playlist. I took my energy and I had to I had to play, man. You could see it through his face, and I was like, wait, jamani, huyu ukimwongelesha vibaya hapo utakula kofi. But anyway, he got his chance, and and true to it, there were bangers to it, man. Sisi watu wa mapenzi yanaran dunia, where we get to let out our feelings with that song. We did that completely, and also other songs, and you could see, even, basically it was more of course I knew some of the people who were on the bus, but there were other new faces, and you could just see the joy in their faces when some songs were playing, and you could see some guys who know these songs and were happy to actually sing it out, and the bus was just full of noise from Kitengela, okay, all through, but from when we started over again traveling going to Namanga from Kitengela, then it became more hyper. Everyone was feeling it. All those anxieties and feelings of not knowing each other. How am I supposed to act? They were all put down, and everyone was just up and about. Singing. Having a good time, and so we were just everybody was having fun. People were having conversations. You know, and I'm glad because from where I was standing at, because as I said, I did not sit down that whole day. I did not sit down at a kidogo. So from where I was standing, I could see basically everyone just having a good time. And to me, I usually love such moments because there are moments where I sit down or I just look at things and people and how they're interacting, and I'm like, wow, this is how human interaction is supposed to be, where people are happy, people are having conversations that make them happy and not in any way propagating any negativity. And you could just see the smiles on people's faces. People taking, there was somebody who even bought you know a whole packet of sweets, and they were sharing across everyone, and I'm like, this is humanity. This is how you create a community of people, and they show love, they give, they just show all these positive things that at the end of it all build a really strong community. And that is basically what Tabasamu Concepts is all about. And so that to me was the greatest feeling, to see strangers and people who just got to meet each other that day, sharing all things. I even forgot to say, even before we left Nairobi, Kavalaji, with his signature moves, he had to write notes for each and every person who was coming for that trip. So he wrote approximately, it was 51 notes for each and everyone. And it was specifically written your name. And to me, that is the greatest, thing you can do for people. Sit down and you spend your time to just write letters to people and give them, a positive feeling, give them affirmations that they themselves might not have known, but it uplifts their souls, without them thinking too much or having negative thoughts. And if anybody was down even before coming to the trip, I'm pretty sure those notes were really uplifting for everyone. Yeah, so that was still part of it. That whole experience was just it, from the notes, from people having conversations. And then we got to just some, like, 2 kilometers before we got to the border in Namanga. We took our lunch at some cafe, should I call it cafe, or just some outlet there that had food. And people, you could hear laughter. People were separated in like two small bandas, where people would sit and eat. Some were outside, some were inside, and you could just see the fun in their faces, their happiness. You don't know each other, but you engage in conversations that were really, really insightful. Even for me, at the table that I was seated at with the friends that I had, we were having conversations, and it was really funny. To me, that's why I love going out and having conversations with people, because I always know wherever I am, trust you me, there is good vibes. Wherever I am, trust you me, you will laugh. I might not be the one who controls the jokes or gives out the jokes fully, but those conversations will be lighthearted. Those conversations will involve laughter and all these things. And that to me was all I was looking for, just to go out and have fun with people and ensure that I laugh to my best. It's actually funny. I think I should have just wrote down what I would talk about, because I'm just remembering as I'm talking that even before we went for lunch, we had a place where we had a small team building, exercises. And just to me now, listen to this. We left Kitengela, the stopover. Everybody was eating their snacks and all that, and then we got to this open space area where we could do the what do you call it, the team building thing. And people are saying, yo, the sun is hot, why are we going out? Oh my god, we don't want to go out. But people came out, and just to be, it started with people complaining of the heat, but at the end of the day, everyone was happy. Trust you, we were there on the road. We decided to go, even after playing, some kid games and some really uplifting games, and people were laughing all over, getting to know each other still. We even went to the road and we were trying to take pictures on the road because the road wasn't that busy. And even when people were passing with cars and lorries and all these things, we were greeting them like kids, man. That was one of the highlights that I had, because I'm like, hey, people can actually be kiddish when they want to. And it's always a good feeling when you want to just explore being a child and doing childish things with people. And I'm sure there were some people who we were greeting who are passing there with their cars, and they're like, hey, these people are drunk, or these people are crazy, because what exactly are you doing? But to us, it was just a way of getting in touch with our childhood, I think. Because hey, it was funny. We had even the men doing press ups on the tarmac. Hey, Jamani, that tarmac was hot. I don't know why I even went down and did the 10 press ups, but I was like, hey, Jamani, my hands were burnt kidogo. Imagine, we all had to do all these things for fun, and people were happy. We took videos on the road, singing, doing all these things, and you could just see the fun in people. And even when we were eating, the discussions, all these things were just a culmination of what was ahead. Because when we got to the Namanga border, then you could just feel, finally we are at the destination, and yeah, we got our chance to go out. There were women there, Maasai women, trying to sell some artifacts, some bracelets and all these things, and you could just see how these women are always waiting for visitors to come in, and they can showcase all their things for selling. Even some will go to the extent of like getting to know what's happening in Kenya, so that any Kenyan who comes to the border, they can have a conversation with them in regards to what is happening in Kenya. And to me, that is really a good way of handling business, because you want to connect to the person you're selling things to, and you want to show them that I may not be here only for selling these things, but just to know that I know what's happening in your country. And that to me is the spirit of togetherness. People from other countries, and in this case Tanzania, getting to know what is happening in Kenya and trying to use that to leverage selling their things and all these things. And you could just see in their faces of how they always wait for these times. You can, I tried speaking to them in a bit of Kimasai, trying to tell them, oh, I don't have money and all these things, but they're really insisting. But I was able to get out because, hey, Javani, hey, if I started buying things, I think everyone would have wanted to, like me, to buy things from them, because they were really persistent on that. But yeah, we also got the opportunity to take more photos at the usual Namanga border post, and yeah, we did that, took many photos. There were people taking videos and all that. And then we got back into the bus, and apparently people are allowed to get into Tanzania. There is usually a lodge and some kind of a club just close to the border, where people who are traveling just to be in Namanga go to, and they're allowed to just cross over to just go to that specific place. And we went there, and we got there, and it was really, now the sun was setting. It was beginning to set. It was around 5 or 4, I think 4:30 or 4, and we were having such a good time. We got in there, the DJ was playing some really deep bongo music, and we were like, yeah, we're in Tanzania, let's just enjoy the scenery. But it was hot, my friend. It was hot. We got to, there was a small village there, and you could see Maasais and kids and all these people. Just another community, just at the border, and you could just see their sense of livelihood and their sense of just community just there, and them seeing visitors, because I'm sure that is a place where they always see visitors coming in, when they're coming to the Namanga border. And to me, I really felt really nice, even when the message from Airtel, telling you that welcome to Tanzania, or you can browse on roaming bundles and all those. I was really happy because I was like, wow, I've never been outside of Kenya, but now I am, and it's a really good feeling. It makes me feel like I should be out of Kenya. Bwana huyu Kasongo ametupeleka ametupeleka mbio sana. So it was basically a good experience. We got to dance. I got to do some salsa with with a lady friend of mine. It was quite hard at first because I've never had to dance salsa with somebody. I'm always used to doing it alone. So having a partner to dance, salsa kidogo was hard, but we got the hang of it and we danced really well. I wish I could show a video, but I don't have evidence. We don't have evidence. We don't have it, but yeah, that was a really good feeling to even dance. My passion is to dance. I love dancing. I might not know how to do all kind of moves and all this, but the little that I know, I will use it to enjoy myself. Now here is the funny part of this whole trip. When we were just about to leave, because it was we were supposed to leave at 7, this DJ decided to transition from playing this deep bongo music that we didn't know to now playing Kenyan bangers. And I'm like, even doing the Kikuyu songs, the Luya songs, the Luo songs, and I'm like, yo, you waited for a whole 2 hours. We've been here for 2 hours, and you decided to just do it when we are about to leave. And I think it was their plan, because they were like, no, don't leave right now. There's something that we can bring. I think DJs always know what to do. When they see people are trying to leave the place, they always play bangers. I don't understand why, but yeah. So people were trying to go down the stairs to get to the bus, and then you hear a song that is a banger, and then you come back still to the dance floor, and people are dancing, all these things, and people are like, hey, can we just stay over this night? Because yeah. No, this guy is literally trying to make us Tanzanian citizens by playing our bangers. So that was a really fun experience too, because I'm like, people are trying to get out, then coming in. Even Cavs was really annoyed, because he's like, guys, we need to leave, and people are like, but the music. And then he's like, but in the car we have a speaker, we can play music and all this. And people are like, but no, the club is much better. But it was so hectic. And that's the fun thing about trips. You get to do all these things, even in the inconveniences that you get. There's still fun in it. So we got to leave Tanzania at around 7:30 there. It was supposed to be a 3-hour trip back to Nairobi. I thought, probably most of the people thought people would be asleep when we started going back, because it was now dark. But the music that was being played now was Kenyan music now, like not the old school completely, but now the new school, bangers that have been, across the airwaves for like the past 2-3 years, even 1 year, even this year. And people were singing even in the dark, and you're like, wow, this is it, man. Like, these are experiences you will never get to forget at all. So yeah, I enjoyed Namanga. I will go back if there's a possibility, to just go back and enjoy that feeling with those people, or even with other people. I would love to. And I realize I love going out as a person. I love having such, interactions with people you get to know then and there, and you might not see them again, but that's the beauty of it. You enjoyed some specific frame of life together, and you enjoyed. I may not have had boiling tea of what happened during that whole day, because even for me, hey Jawari, there was somebody who tried to throw some jab at me. I looked like some guy in that small community who had come to us to try and sell some marubaine sticks for brushing our teeth. And he was an old man, trying to sell those things. I bought some. I just didn't get the chance to ask how much he was selling them, but a few people just bought them. And I was like, this lady just came up to me and she was like, you look like that old man. You look like even you're his business partner. And I was like, wow, you don't know me and you're trying to throw jabs at me, my you don't know me. Hey, so I decided to leave that vicinity because I was like, wait, hapa nikiamua kurudisha huyu atapelekwa Chiromo. But anyway, yeah, so it was funny because that whole, now the rest of the trip I had to literally try and avoid having any conversation with her because I would have really done damage. I would have damaged her, my goodness. But funny enough, or sweet enough, when we got to Nairobi, she apologized, or she started saying, oh, I am handsome, or I should not have taken it the wrong way. And I was like, yo, I'm cool. I'm not insecure about my looks. I'm not. I don't think I'll ever be insecure about my looks, If somebody finds me attractive, cool. If somebody doesn't find me attractive, that's fine by me. I'm not. I think in a previous episode I've mentioned there was a time I really thought I would be everyone's cup of tea, but you get humbled and you realize there are people who will find you attractive and there are people who won't. So in this case, I was literally trying to avoid any kind of conversation with this person because I really did not want to have this negative output to her, because it was literally in my throat or in my tongue. I felt like if I uttered any words, it would have been really disrespectful. So for me, I think that was a growing opportunity to just learn to let things go. You don't have to. And there were many others, because when you're interacting with people, it's not always as good as you would want it to be, but you get to learn even through the process. So for me, if I met her again, I wouldn't be hesitant in having a conversation. But yeah, at least somebody now knows they don't have to cross boundaries when it comes to that. But yeah, you just provide grace to everyone. So that was basically it. I arrived home at around some minutes to midnight, and it was really a good day. The next day was tough because the fatigue hit like nonsense. It hit like nonsense, man. Hey, jamani. But I'm really happy. That fatigue is the good kind of fatigue where you feel like, yeah, my body actually needed that. Your muscles might be in pain, but yeah, we are happy. And so that was it. That was the Namanga trip. Thank you for listening. This was just, by the way, before we get into serious talks in other episodes, thank you very much for your patience into listening to this yapping. Thank you very much for listening to the Cordial Podcast. I have been your host, Mungai Kang'ong'oi, of course, Nani Mwingide. Thank you very much for listening. I will come back with the other episode where we will conclude on some matters and get on with season 2. It has been a pleasure, guys. Have a blessed week, have a blessed day, have a blessed month, and I hope it carries you well. See you next episode.